air and people are enjoying their networking, and hopefully you'll have a little time at the end. We're very, very pleased to have Dan Souls with us today. For those of you who traverse Genesee Street, which I'm guessing is most of us at one time or another, have been seeing this wonderful adventure of Dan's materialize. I was speaking with Dan earlier, and I think it has been an adventure. And I'll keep this brief because we really want to hear from Dan. But I do want to mention some of the highlights from Dan's biography, which Amy was so kind to truncate for me because it's vast. You know that Dan's an entrepreneur. He's been being an entrepreneur for over 35 years. And you probably know him best as the senior partner in Souls and Dunn Development Group, but also the president and CEO of the Grant Ave Development Incorporated, which operates 36 RVs. And those RVs are in New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. He employs over 600 people. And recently added to the development group is Tim Hortons and Domino Pizza. And with all these restaurants, 41 in all, the sales exceed $30 million a year. Dan is also CEO of Cranebrook Golf Course. I wonder if he ever gets a chance to go out there and golf. No, I have. It's a lovely course. And you recently acquired another company. I'll see if I can pronounce this. It's a commercial and residential agronomy, pesticide-related service business. And Dan has served our community locally on the Cuyahoga Museum Board, the Cuyahoga County Chamber of Commerce, the Board of Directors of Leadership Cuyahoga, and he is also a senior marketing board member for the World Marketing Strategies Board for Pepsi Cola, representing Arby's. In 2007, no surprise, he received the Award of Distinction from Weedsport Central Schools. And through his philanthropy and charitable donations, he has donated millions to related charities and nonprofit programs. And he and his wife, Carol, who's president of the Auburn School Board, dedicate a third of their time to philanthropy, education, and nonprofit in Central New York. So thank you, Dan. Thank you for being here. And please tell us all about your project.
Thank you. Let me start back here and bounce out a little bit and go through a few things that I have for you. I'm obviously very pleased to be here and enjoy this company of these wonderful people from our community. I want to ask a couple questions before I get started here because I'm not that serious, so I like to keep things light. So for those people who have children, could you kind of raise your hand? Everybody who has grandchildren, could you raise your hand? It's pretty much everyone in the room. So I kind of think back when you were a young parent or you were a grandparent and your child had their first day of school, kindergarten. They did that first little play. You were all excited about it. You walked up there. You were so concerned that your little girl or your little boy was going to pick their nose and pull up their dress. Right? Remember that? Remember those days? Parents and grandparents were very proud. Well, that's kind of how Connie would be looking at me today. We're kind of right. Then you have the alter ego, Jessie Mine. She's hoping.
Hoping you'll pick your nose.
She's hoping. Keep everywhere at. So that's what I had to deal with when I come in here today, but I do appreciate the invitation to be here. And I wanted to obviously talk about the Plaza, but I also like to share some other things about life and about community, and I'd like you to know a little bit more about myself. I think it's important to know where I came from and how I got involved in this type of project and how I got involved in business and such. So I want to tell you another little story, and then I'll get into the meat of this. I grew up in a migrant town, and my father left when I was born. He named me, and he walked out of the hospital and never came back, which wasn't so bad because I had an amazing mother, a very bright mother who was very educated, very driven. Went to East High in Auburn. She was fortunate enough to have a scholarship to Cornell, and but she couldn't afford to even stay there, so she had to leave school after the first year and a half. But the good news, she had great genes, and she had 4 wonderful children. And I was the baby of the family, the lucky one that mother was most. So back then we were quite poor. We lived, in a rental house. And I remember when I was very young, my mother gave us a bag of marbles. Remember that? For those probably get a little bit older, remember your parents gave you a bag of marbles. So she gave marbles to my brother, who was probably the smartest man I've ever known. And he speaks 4 languages, and one of the most brilliant people. She gave a bag of marbles to my sister, who has her PhD in psychology, very smart, and to my other brother, who was much smarter than I. And then I got my bag of marbles, which had a lot less. So even at 4 years old, you grew up fast, and I kind of said to myself, how come I have less marbles than you guys? And my brother, who was very smart, says, because you have less marbles. Okay. So obviously this stayed with me for quite a while. I never thought about, I never forgot about it. I said, why do I have less marbles? So I was always searching for my marbles. So then I read where marbles came from, the loss of marbles. It's a French derivative of losing something, losing furniture. But the Americans, in their way, had to tie it back in and say, you lost your mind, you lost your marbles. Americans got to switch it out. So finally, after a few years, I said to my mother, you really got to straighten this out for me because I've been thinking about it a lot and I can't get over it. It really bothers me. So being the loving mother and being the favorite child, she sat me down. She said, Dan, I'm going to tell you the truth. You really do have less marbles. I said, Mom, I don't think you meant it quite that way. So anyways, as life has gone through, I've always thought of myself as a very humble man. And I'm always searching for my marbles, see if I can find them. I worked through life. I've been very fortunate to have had wonderful people like Amy by my side, who I spend more time with than my wife. Let's not talk about that. Related. And to have my wonderful wife, Carol, who is the president of the school board. So anyways, what we really came for here is to talk about the Plaza of the Arts. So I'll get into it a little bit, and if I'm running short or long on time, just tell me. This was kind of dreamt up. The whole process was dreamt up about 2.5 years ago. We would drive down through the city of Auburn, and we were seeing the changes and seeing the excitement of the city, and we felt that it was our time to do something and give back a gift. At that time, we were growing exponentially outside of New York State. We were growing in Pennsylvania, Virginia, we developed in Florida, and it looked like that was the direction we were going. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like there was just a turn in the road, and a point where all of a sudden, the city started to have a rebirth, where people were starting to think and talk about it. BID was doing their wonderful things, and community people, developers were stepping up to the plate. And, for those who know me well, know that I get excited about things very easily, like bags of marbles. So anyways, so that's when kind of the idea came along. And so we drove around and we said, what's the most critical part of the city? What's the most important thing you have to have in the city to move forward? And so I said parking. I said, parking is the issue. If you have parking, you can do anything in the city. And so we started to study the demographics. And then we went back to our own businesses that we own, commercial properties up and down the East Coast, and we realized our most successful businesses all had parking because people was conducive. You get there, get in, get out. So we kind of drove through the area and we said, let's find a building that really has parking. So obviously, we found the Auburn Family Restaurant, which is the last picture down in the end there. So you can take a picture of it, what it used to look like. So we love that location. We also liked the fact that we had a great neighbor, St. Peter and John, who would work with us. They became very good friends of ours. It was really probably one of the greatest gifts of this whole project, is meeting these wonderful, wonderful people. And they were willing to sell us 32-foot of their adjoining land on the west side of our building. So by doing that, it allowed us to really have a pretty large frontage. I think we're 240 feet or 250 feet of frontage, somewhere in that range. I'm working on the project, so if I miss a few of the numbers, it's been a while. But it allowed us to do that. It also allowed us to put our own street corner in, which is quite interesting because I know this is very difficult to see, but what we did is we bought the property from St. Peter and John, and we were able to put our own 36-foot wide double-lane neck road going into the property, which was part of our original plan with the city. The other thing that it allowed us to do, it allowed us to take and build a building with the streetscape along with the street versus having to go back in the way the old Auburn Family Restaurant was. So we have 214 feet building on Genesee Street. I think it's 87 feet of building going down our new side street. So I think we have over 210 to 215 foot of street frontage. It's pretty exciting for Auburn, because who doesn't want to be on the street frontage? So that was kind of nice. And by doing that, we also were able to put all the parking behind the building, which, as much as parking is a critical issue, we wanted to make sure that our customers had the best parking. So we knew if they had parking behind the building, that it would be used primarily for our project and not maybe for some of the other areas in the city that have just park and walk to. So fortunately, we have a good neighbor in Lynch Furniture, and you can see the double parking here. So combined, we have over 101 parking spots with the project. Since then, because we're so bullish on parking, we have contracted with the county to do another 30 parking spots over in, I call it the Veterans Memorial lot, that's kind of kitty covered by the library. So we'll have about 131 parking spots, which for downtown is probably one of the best parking in the city. After 4 o'clock and on weekends, the entire street is available. You have the Veterans Memorial, which is completely open, and the county office building. We could have as many as 280 to 300 parking spots available to us on nights and weekends. So you can kind of obviously see parking was a critical decision in the process for us to move forward. And we really believe that long term, that will be the basis that will make this building very, very valuable, because as you've seen in downtown already with the Renaissance, how many people are coming downtown and they're trying to find places to park. The cool thing is they're stretching the city. They're parking a block or 2 blocks away, so the city's really stretched out, which is good for the entire city, but it also will go back and have a basis that those who have great parking will probably have a good value down the road. So that's kind of where we all came into it. The next part of the project was about what do we want to do here. And obviously, my dream was to move our corporate offices here. And when I brought that up, that felt like a lead balloon. Because those who understand outside of New York State, if you live in Virginia or Pennsylvania, you could probably retain 20% of your discretionary income. You kind of figure that out. You made $100,000 a year as a family. That gives you an extra $20,000 to go out and dine and eat, and buy gas, and afford a more expensive home, whatever it may be. So that being the case was a very difficult thing. Plus, our other headquarters is in Roanoke, Virginia. Has anybody been to Roanoke, Virginia? Probably one of the most beautiful places in the United States. So it was the big leagues. But I finally said to myself, this is my last rodeo. And I'll probably get voted down at some point as we get larger and larger. I'm just one of the players. So I said, I'm going to really take a run at this thing hard and see if they can convince them if we can consolidate our corporate offices to Auburn, New York. So in that process, we discussed moving our comptroller's office here, our payroll department here, our marketing department here, and consolidating all in one office. So basically, we became the anchor of the building, which really brought it to life. So as you can see over here, excuse me, this will be our new headquarters here, which we have about 4,500 square feet, and I think we've already outgrown it. Along with that, which is kind of interesting, is that we will have our training center there, and that's a huge impact on the city. We are the national training store for Arby's on the East Coast. So if you opened an Arby's in New Jersey, if you opened one in New York City, or if you opened one in Connecticut, you would have to train through our company. So if you train through our company, you have to come here, stay here for 30 days. We have to house you, we'll feed you, and we'll be training you in the restaurants, and we'll be training you in a training center. And the nice thing about that is, and I'll share some numbers with you in a minute to show you the impact of this project. Just our training allowance that we're applying for next year for lodging and food is $270,000 that we'll be bringing into the community. So it's a huge impact to the community and what we're going to be doing there. Also, as far as training, our corporate friends, our corporate partners with Arby's, Dominic, Tim Horton, when they come into town, they'll come here, they'll visit at our headquarters. So the impact of this building, just from our group, is going to be tremendous. We have, I don't even know what we have, 11 companies or 12 companies? I don't even know. But also, that will also be the headquarters for our real estate development groups, and our golf course, and our new East Free Company, and all of the subsidiary companies. We will all house out of this building, which is quite nice. The other questions that people want to, I'm going to just move this down. This is the old Auburn family restaurant. You can't see anymore. This is just showing the construction of the building. I think we got a little bit carried away when we started doing the construction. We wanted to have something very nice and very particular, so we built a steel structure, a stone out exterior on it. When we did the design work on the building, it was super exciting. For those that don't realize this about me, I do have a feminine side. I love to design stuff. I love to do interiors, I love exteriors, and so when we started working on this project, we took every building in downtown Auburn and said, what piece of it can we take? So we took the concrete from some buildings, we took the brick from other buildings, we took the steeple from the churches, we took it's an 85-foot sitting wall that we took from St. Peter and John and did the limestone. So when you sit in the cafe area, you can see the church, and it kind of blends into the landscape. So we tried to really incorporate a lot of historical and eclectic looks with the arts all in one. Oh, by the way, Plaza the Arts, where did that come from? Probably you want to know. That was a name we just came up with because of all the excitement in the theater in downtown Auburn. So we put that down as Plaza the Arts, thinking we just use it temporarily. But then we started filling applications out for banks and grants and things like that, and never had a chance to change it, so it's Plaza the Arts, which is pretty cool. And to add to that, for those who know the creative corridor in Auburn, this obviously is part of it. We're dead smack in the middle. If you were to take a pen, put a point on a map with the Schwartz Theater and the Public Theater and the Mac Theater, where's the dead center of it? Right exactly where we are. So not only parking, but the geographics meant a lot to us. So obviously, as we move through this thing, we wanted to have it more than just a building. We wanted to have it as a pointed destination, a place where people would go. So we decided to do more than just a building. We decided to build it like a park setting. So what we've done is we have had, as I mentioned earlier, we have our own entrance coming in here, which is private. For those who went to Wally's this last weekend when they had the great celebration, well, it's kind of neat because we have our own State Street in a sense. And we have our own gardens, and we have our own patio. We have 5,000 square foot of outdoor space where we can dine and do activities and do art shows and whatever. We even brought out our own separate circuits so that if we're having music out there, we don't have to worry about having enough power. We plan everything. In this patio area, we'll have beautiful lights in here. It has LED lights on the wall. It has street lamps in here. It has 2 trees in here. And as you can see in this picture that shows the side a little bit, we went crazy on the lights. We put about $40,000 worth of exterior lights on the building. We wanted to have something that was a beacon in the city. When people came down to this city from the west to the east, said, this is the new corner of the city of Auburn. This is the new entrance to the city of Auburn. We wanted that, and it really moved us. We had that beautiful open yard from St. Peter and John to just introduce this incredible look at the city. So that was very important to us. Of course, on the other hand, we ran over budget. What does? So obviously, we have the parking, we have the entrance, and for those that might have one extra drink at night, you can slip out the back way. I'm not going to name anybody here, but you can slip out the back way. It also has a back entrance in here so that you can go all the way through the building from the front or the back. So right now, I know you're going to ask me some questions who's coming into the building. This is what we call Restaurant Row. We thought it was as important to pick the right businesses as it was to have the excitement of them wanting to come with us. So basically, we've been working hard with 4 or 5 different concepts. Right now, we've honed it down to a couple. You read the paper probably last week. The Downtown Deli Cafe is coming in. And yes, they are, and they will be in the corner. They will take this corner and part of the new garden area. And we're working with Mike Arfino. Mike, who has been a long-time developer and restaurateur in the area. We're going to step in, help him with some of the systems, help him really tune them in because of our people. And so we're going to work with him hand in hand, help develop his brand there. Right now, we have 2 other brands that we've narrowed down to on the food side. Oh, by the way, with the Downtown Deli, they're going to serve breakfast. They're going to do quick grab and go. They'll do sit down, not like a formal breakfast, but they go down the line. Coffees, they're going to have lunches like they do at the deli, salads, soups, and then slide into an eating where they turn the lights down lower and have it just a little more comfortable where you get sangria, you get wine and beer and sandwiches. So if ladies are downtown or men working, they come in here. We understand the demographics of what's going on in this part of the city. There's over 4,000 people that mull around here between employees and customers that go into the office building. 150 people live in Boyle Center. we understand that impact, and we understand that if you're a woman or a man that works in the office buildings, you have 30 minutes maybe for your lunch, and that is your life. So you're thinking to yourself, I get over here in 3 minutes, I can get something to eat in 3 minutes, I can get sun on my face for like 15 minutes, I got 3 or 4 minutes to get back to work without being late, right? So we've taken that into account with the type of services we're going to have. On the back side of this here, which is hard to see, which is way back in here, we have several different brands. And some of you may have heard of it. Right now, it looks like the Rosalie Group will probably be the brand that'll come in there. If they do, they'll be serving Starbucks coffee. They'll be serving the fresh bread, the French breads, and all the pastries. They'll be also serving yogurt, and they'll also be serving a satellite of the bucket, which you're probably familiar with. They're redoing that on Genesee Street, but more of a takeout. So the key to this is that we would have, between the two concepts, we'd have like 7 or 8 different forms of food. Not like a food court, but really within 2 restaurants. So you can pretty much get everything you want. On the outside here, so it's not going to be really a formal bar, just as although we do have a brew pub that does want to come in here, and we're still negotiating, so we don't know where that's going to go. But we also, like I said earlier, we could close this off and make it into an entire area where we could function with activities and arts. Our idea, a little bit different than Wally, is to take and put arts back in here. Let's say we want to do school function programs, we want to do art shows, we want to do, dance, recitals. Anything we want to do here, we could do. We could do, a farmer's market on a Saturday morning, or we could do any type of small little programs that we can do here, that we can do in the community. Our goal is to continue to market this building so it just has activity all the time. It's just not standing still. It's always moving. The other thing that we'll have that'll help with that, this will have music all the way around the building. So we'll have speakers much like Wally's, that we just background sound like Disney a little bit, so you just kind of hear music on the street when you're there. And we'll also have security cameras on the entire circumference of the building and the light poles, so that our tenants and the people there feel very secure. We'll have a full-time on-site manager at the building. So the rest of the building, as it stands, I get a call, sir. The rest of the building is going to have a medical group upstairs, and we have 2 spots downstairs. And right now we're honing into one retailer and another retailer that's going to have medical-related products. I'd rather not, give the names because we're just in the process of finishing up some work. We're expecting, which is amazing, with the brands that we have in here, 700 to 900 people a day going through this building, which is amazing. It's probably more people than going through almost any other building other than the County office building. So from that perspective, it's pretty exciting when you think there's going to be 5,000 people mulling around just this part of the city all the time. I want to share a few finances with you because people really always care about the money and the impact on the city. But as in my typical fashion, I have to tell you a little story. So I was riding along, I was up in Watertown, I was coming down 81, and I was with one of my best friends in the world, Pete Whitmore, who was the president and CEO of Drex Subs. You know the brand, because it's in Auburn. And he retired at 48, and I hate him. So we're in the car, we're driving to a meeting, and he said, Dan, I got to ask you a question. He said, what are your projections for growth every year? I said, I don't know. He says, well, you must come up with something. I said, no, I really don't. He said, you've been in business for 30-some years, and you don't have any projections. I mean, you're a high-powered business guy. You must have something. I said, no, I really don't. So going down the road, it's bothering him more and more. And 5 minutes later, he said, Dan, it can't be real. You must have some projections. He said, Peter, I don't have any projections. We just grow. We just find an opportunity. We just grow. So this goes on for a half hour, and he just is he's in my ear about, you must have some projections. So I said, okay, $2 million. I was right back and said, what are you relating that to? I said, I don't know. You want a number, $2 million. So we argued for a while, as friends do. We sometimes think we're married. And so he says, well, you got to relate that $2 million to something. I said, okay, from now on, I'll relate it to something. So anyways, I go back to our company headquarters, and I keep that idea in my mind. I said, we need to grow at $2 million a year. So typically, our company grows somewhere between 2 and 4 or 5 million a year. This project's $6 million a year. And I really don't care because, as I said earlier, how we get there, just the fact that we're growing. We've never laid off anyone in my 35 plus years of business. I'm aging myself. And so I really had to have a hard number. So I would wait until we had $2 million, and like last year we had $2 million in the first quarter. So I get the ability to call up the entire company, get on a conference call, tell everybody we had $2 million, we've met our goals, everybody can take the rest of the year off. I think that's what people want me to do. Or I said, if you feel good about what we're doing, then don't feel any more stress. Just sit back, relax, do what you want to do, happy with the job, and let's see what we can do. So we hit $4 million, and then I had to make that phone call again. Now we've doubled our expectations. So I get on the phone and I call everybody and do a huge conference call and say, hey, look, we have $4 million. We've got to work for 2 years. What are we going to do? So then we said, let's bring some ideas in. Maybe we go on some trips, maybe we do some parties, we can do something, but certainly we don't want to work, do we? People didn't know what to say, so they finally said, well, maybe we'll stay at work for a while. So the point of it is that my friend made me bring a projection to him, which really means nothing to me. But the most important part of it is by coming up with this number and sharing with our employees, puts people at ease to realize that you're not under that gun every day. That you don't have to feel that you just got to meet numbers. It doesn't hurt to have some fun. It doesn't hurt to find some objectives and just hit them and then relax a little bit. And you all know when you're relaxed, whether it be speaking up here or doing something with your children, you'll do a much better job. So maybe that's just a little bit of a financial story that will help you down the road. Just a few numbers I wanted to share with you. I think these are rather important. And I'll take a few more minutes and you can ask some questions. The impact, I think the impact on the city is critical to any project that we do. And so I just wanted to share these numbers because when you really see them, and people talk about pilots, they talk about grants, they talk about, well, what's the real impact on the city? But when you hear these numbers, I think you'll be quite surprised. The expected sales tax revenues from the restaurants and the retail establishments, we're budgeting $320,000 in the first full year. The downtown improvement tax, which is big, they'll be getting $13.40 a year, added to their coffers, which they can always use. The water and sewer, we're talking about $12,390 a year added to the city's numbers. Expected new jobs and retention of jobs that we would either take it out of the state or maintain in the state will be over $3.7 million. And the low and moderate jobs that we'll have that will be in the restaurants and the entry-level people will be about $900,000. The expected payroll for Souls and Dunn retained in New York is just $1.3 million. Not the new jobs coming in, but me and her leaving, going somewhere else if we didn't stay here. The estimated restaurant sales is $3 million. The estimated retail sales is $1 million. The construction's brick and mortar for this great complex was based at $2 million, which really has turned out to be over $3 million. We took very conservative numbers. And the construction labor will be $2 million, which will probably be closer to $3 million. The training expenses spent with the community, I shared with you earlier, will be $270,000. The employees' general spending with the community, people that are working with us, that will be stopping at Wegmans or wherever they go, have lunch, whatever, is budgeted at $225,000. The philanthropy by our company, we try to donate $100,000 back to the community each and every year, besides our time. And the final thing is our banking relationships, which is kind of indirect, which is over $33 million a year. But the interesting thing, which we'll be bringing that up from Virginia, which is now with BB&T, so we'll exclusively do our major corporate banking here in Auburn, New York. So the thing is, if you look at that, that's just shy of $50 million a year, directly or indirectly, that will impact the city. So think about one project over 20 years will affect the city $1 billion. $1 billion. So when people go out there and say, well, this program really isn't going to affect much, you really got to look at the numbers. And does it have job creation? Does it have increase in sales tax? A lot of the people in this room, as I look around, are baby boomers. And hopefully, if you planned well and worked well, that your discretionary income factor is improved as you've gotten to this next part of your life. And with that, hopefully your mortgage is paid off and some of your kids' college education paid off. You have a little more money in your pocket at the end of the week. If you do, I would think you're going out and having maybe an extra meal a week or an extra treat, whatever it may be. That's the type of discretionary spending we're looking for. Not just ourselves, but everyone in downtown, whether it's Wally's or anyone else. So the impact on the city from one business like this can be absolutely huge. And that's where I challenge the city, and I'm glad Doug's here. He's been great working with us to engage and make sure that we can do more projects like this and grasp the entire amount of money that's available out there from the community. The other thing I wanted to speak about for a couple seconds was not just about us, but the other developers that are doing great things in downtown. The Bernie Simmonses, the Lee Vanderpools, and the Bartolotas. I know Joe was here speaking to you a couple months ago. And I was traveling on business and wasn't able to attend. But this project isn't about us. It's not about our company. It's about all the people in this room. It's about the Bartolotas. It's about Wally's. It's about Parker's. It's about growing brands together. When we build an Arby's, a new Arby's, we look at the demographics and study the market around us. And if there's a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Wendy's, we typically like to go there because we can complete that market. No different than if you said, let's go for a quick sandwich today, you want to get in the car, most people would think Grand Ave because that's where all the quick service restaurants are, right? Well, these amazing developers are doing the same thing downtown. They're giving choices downtown so that if you want to go to Wally's and have a beef at Wick, you want to go to Parker's and have comfort food, or if you want to go to Casa Grande and have Mexican food, we have great choices downtown. In fact, I've even started calling myself as a downtowner, which I think is kind of cool, you know what I mean? And I like it, I feel good about it, because with the theater and with the activities and with the arts and the restaurants and the fellowship we have downtown, it really allows us to embrace and grow a brand that Auburn has been looking for a long time. I really think we're on the brink of it. The last thing I was going to say is the future of retail, downtown Auburn is one of the other areas that's near and dear to me. I would love to see retail coming back into downtown. I will be honest with you, we've struggled with this with the retail side of it. But, if you're going to shop retail, you can't have one store. You need to have 4 or 5. One of the challenges I'm going to ask the city for is to work with the developers to try to enact and get 5 retailers come here at one time. We have a huge impact. Because there's 5 retailers, I think people will come and shop and go from retail to retail, then stop, whether it be a Parker's or here and have a sangria or a sandwich or whatever. We have to partner with the city and help them to help us to bring retail back into downtown. You can't do it one at a time. It needs to be done as a group, I believe. But that's just Dan Soul saying. But together, it's been wonderful. We appreciate the support we've had. The city is wonderful. We were able to take a building that had $70,000 in back taxes and clean it up for the city. I think that's pretty good. We were able to take sewer lines that were completely plugged, that didn't even work, that the past person was dumping them into the storm sewers, and able to clean them up. It cost us about $16,000. We were able to fix light poles and sidewalks that were cracked. We were able to take a water system on a building that was all running on surface and do it all underground into a bathroom system that goes into the proper wastewater system that we have for the city. Everything we've done here with this project was not just about us, but it's about making the city of Auburn a better place. And I think that's a responsibility we all have. It's interesting for me, when I started this project, it was a dream, and it was also a financial dream. But as I got into it, and I've talked to so many wonderful people, and they've told me how much this building has given them encouragement, and how much they appreciated our efforts, it really has gone away from the financial side. It's really become a very emotional and a personal gift that we want to give back to the city. Don't get me wrong, we'd like to be able to balance our income and pay our bills, but or I will be out sooner than I thought. But we really has become more than that. We've built great partnerships with people from St. Peter and St. John. We have met so many wonderful people downtown. All the agencies have worked hard to help us succeed. Jenny Haynes, I could go on all day about her. She's just incredible. If it wasn't for Jenny Haynes, I don't know what would happen here in the city. She gets things done. She's our ray of sunshine. So there's so many people I can thank with this, and you might want to ask a few questions. The only other thing I want to say at the end is, I have one more story. It's my retirement story. So back when I was 40, when I was younger than 40, I always had the dream to retire when I was 40. And I always thought in this world where we're doing everything backwards, that we should retire when we're young, and we should work when we're old, because really when we're old, we're nothing to do. So I had the dream of retiring when I was 40, so I took that opportunity when I was 40 and took my incredible best friend and beautiful wife down to Florida for a month. We had a home on an island. We went down there with 2 young children and we went to the beach, built a sandcastle, came back and it was 80 degrees. It was gorgeous. We had cocktails and we enjoyed some quiet time. The boys were great. It was one of the best days of my life. We got the next day, it was 82 degrees. A much nicer day than the day before. And I said to my wife, what are we doing today? She said, let's go back to the beach. I said, we did it yesterday. And so, being the husband I am, you know where this is going. I went back to the beach and I built a bigger sandcastle. And I played with our kids and I went home and had a couple cocktails. Quiet time wasn't there, but it's okay. So then I got up the third day, it was 84 degrees, a much more beautiful day than the first 2 days. And I said, hey, what are we doing today? He says, well, we're going to the beach. It's sunny out. I said, I'll tell you what, you go to the beach, I'm going to get out of plane and go back home. I'll be back on the weekend. And I realized at that point in my life that you really don't want to retire. You need a purpose. And so for me, when I go to work every day, I go to work every single day, I never think about retiring. I think about what can I do next? How can I fulfill my life? I'm 58, and people ask me the same question about our projections about when are you going to retire. I said, I don't know. I never think about it. I'm having too much fun. Is it hard? Yeah, there's days that are hard. But I can change the world. I can do things that very few people have the opportunity to do. So I don't see myself as retiring. I see myself as continuing doing what I'm doing, staying involved in the community, giving back as much as we possibly can. As Laura had mentioned in the beginning, and we're very proud of it. My wife, who's the president of the school board, she's been 6 years, president for 3 years. My best friend, we really are fulfilled by giving back to our community, whether it be on boards or in education. My wife goes to every school in the district. I see Connie here, Lisa here. She hits every school, every sporting event, every week. And I tell you something, it gives me chills. It motivates me to see a woman who doesn't have to do it, her pay isn't really large for doing this, go out there. And it instills me to do what I do. So we try to give a third of our life back. So I guess my finish here is that keep your dreams alive, get back to your community, never retire unless you have to. Just keep having fun, play the game. So thanks for your time, and I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan. I think I speak for a lot of people, and I certainly will say to you again personally what I said earlier. I'm so grateful for your vision. I'm grateful that you took that last run at it while you still had the influence to bring all those jobs and employees to your headquarters to Auburn. So, questions? Yes.
Oh, this is just a
When will you
facade.
open is the question.
Well, I think we're starting build outs this week. We got pretty much the outside of the building in pretty good shape. We did the finished paint on it and such. We wanted to throw some lights up there so people can kind of get a little tease, as you can see in that third picture down. We plan on starting build outs. The neat thing is we're going to have 3 or 4 different crews in there because some of the businesses are building theirs out and we're building out other ones. So I would say that probably June-ish we should start opening some of the restaurants and our offices. I would think we'll move over in probably June ourselves. What's up, Laura?
I want to say something. I'm doing this research on Thomas Mount Osborne, and I've had this puzzling issue from the beginning when I realized that about 1915, one of the richest men, actually the Warren Buffett of his day, George Foster Peabody, asked him to go to New York City and join him and get rich, and he would have got rich. And it took him about 2 years to make a decision not to leave Auburn, and he didn't leave Auburn. And it's been a puzzling thing. Well, I noticed that 25 years ago I came to Auburn, and I haven't been able to leave Auburn. And I'm coming to realize that what we're talking about is Auburn is a community unlike most American cities today. It is a place, destination, place you can live from the inside out. And in the last 6 to 8 years, starting, I suppose, with the public theater, it isn't starting with that. That would be unfair to say that, but certainly that becomes a milestone in this sort of thing. We never lost community, and we have slowly growing. And you are very much a result of this. I'm looking at this and thinking, this isn't going to happen in other places. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and I will echo what you're saying, because I think of myself when I was growing up, and so many of my friends said to me, you should be in New York or Boston, doing what you do, the type of development you do, and I do investment banking and such, so they thought you should be really moving into a bigger market. And we all have that choice of being a big fish in a small pond, small fish in a big pond. And I identified with this community, and I was very comfortable here. And maybe part of it's because I was the youngest, and maybe I was the loudest boy. I don't know what it was, but I do. I echo what you're saying in the sense that this is a rare community, and it really grows on you. I mean, it really, I travel all over the United States with development and different boards I'm on, and every time I come back here, I find this is the best place I've ever been. With the lakes and the people, the culture, and people are very forgiving here too. I mean, if something goes wrong, people here at this community will help you get back on your feet. They're really like a large family. It's big enough where you can feel the city, but it's small enough where you can still have your own identity and tie to it. I agree with you.
Danny, have you left room for expansion, either a third floor or anything?
No, we originally we wanted to. We were going to plan the third floor, and it does have an elevator, obviously, go to the second floor. And but goes back to the parking thing. We felt parking was so critical that we wanted to make sure that we could fulfill the obligation on the existing building. And but doesn't mean that we won't do another building.
Danny, outside of this project, what other areas of either downtown or the city do you see as the next phase of growth, anchored by something similar to this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I study, right now, it's interesting because a lot is being plucked up so quick. I guess Lee Vanderpool and Brenda Grillo bought the Auburn flooring company, that building there. I think they're buying Picarillos. It's interesting once that steamroller gets going, it seems like everybody's plucking everything up. It's interesting. I think a great area is Court Street. It's something we're looking at. We love that street. We have the professional building. For those people who know that next to the YMCA, we did that 7 years ago. We completely redid it into a Colorado mission kind of look, and took a building that was pretty tough shape, and we haven't had a vacancy in 6 years. And but I would think that the east side of Genesee Street, with the Bartolotas, will really be a very large area that will make the move. It can't not. I think with their pilots and with their energy, it's interesting how it's sprouting out from the center and moving out, but it's also closing in from the ends too. So I would say a little bit of everywhere. I don't see a particular area just popping up. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge with the HSBC building in that area. And the other thing that people don't understand, it's very difficult to do projects because, one of the things that people don't do, you buy a home or you buy a building, and you buy it on the cash flow. If you ever watch HGTV, and people will show, well, this house is going to cash flow $300. Well, they forgot one huge number. It's called capital reinvestment, because you got to keep it up. You say you cash flow 300, but if somebody bought a building in Auburn on cash flow, and it's in some need of repair, who has the money to be able to put a new $50,000 roof on that building? Who has the money to go back and replace the windows? So it's very difficult to find a building that you can buy that has the structure, the dynamics, to be able to deal with it today, and also be able to reinvest the money so it's there for years to come. And what happens if you don't do that, then you end up somebody renting buildings out for $5 a square foot and putting in some business that you may not like in there, because they got to do what they got to do. So that's where I think the city and the developers need to work together so that we're all climbing the same ladder.
Dan, visualization plays a key, does it not, in this development? You talk about bringing those 5 retailers and getting a plan together and getting some visualization together so people can actually see themselves in these spaces and in these buildings, and with neighbors that will complement them and help bring their business. How much of that has played a role in your ability to attract the ideal businesses to your space?
Well, I think we're the foundation of it. I think this building may be the largest foundation, because the key is the visualization, seeing people downtown. I mean, if we're gonna have 700 to 800, 900 people go through this complex in a day, that in itself is gonna change the whole climate of downtown. No different than having Wally's when you saw 1,000 people there over the weekend under the tents and enjoying what was going on. No different than when you go on a summer night and watch, 100 people walking across the street, and I mean good people walking across the street to the Auburn Public Theater. So the visual part of this thing is seeing what's happening here. And I think, I never thought about before, I thought you'd bring in retail first and then bring in the other businesses, but we're fortunate. We have shopping downtown in Wegmans, we have restaurants and bars, if you want to call them as such, and we have businesses coming back downtown, good businesses that are going to create traffic and movement downtown. And with that, you were just talking about your yoga business, which I wasn't aware of. But and the best part of it, she had to turn someone away the other day. She was so busy, she felt terrible about it, but that's the vision, and that's the feeling you want. You want to see a place that's so busy that people can't get in the door. And I think as that starts to go, then we have to bring that back over to the city, and hopefully they'll be able to partner up with us to say, hey, we've got this look, we've got this vision, now we need to take the next step. And they have to understand and buy in, hopefully, that by bringing in more retail brings in more revenue, more sales. Like we may sacrifice a little bit of property tax up front, but in the bigger picture, we'll get that sales tax money, and eventually, and I can prove this point, they just did the reassessment, is that because of projects like this, they have reassessed a lot of the downtown buildings for more money. And so it is working for the city as well as it's working for the developer and for the consumer.
Other questions? Connie?
This isn't so much a question, but when we being bid, worked with you on the professional building with the Main Street grant, I decided then that Dan Souls was the most fearless person I had ever met. And then when we started working with you on this project, and I know you got some significant pushback from within about this, and you said that your goal was to make the entrance from the west into downtown Auburn much more pleasing, welcoming, beautiful, and you far outdid yourself. And this is just beautiful. So thank you for continuing to be fearless. And thank you for your stories. And thank you for whatever you have coming up in the future. We all appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Other questions? Yes.
I was interested in the event space possibility, because we're always looking for, staging more events and partnering with different organizations downtown, Winter Fest, Founders Day. How that piece would work, can you share a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think it's one of our greatest assets there, because really, truthfully, with the parking that we have on weekends there, if you think about it, when the government office buildings are closed, that opens up a whole world of parking there. So if we even had to close this area off, we could close the entire area out here. You could even close part of the parking lot here off. And this is all the church yard over here. And but you would have literally thousands and thousands of square foot of space that you could hold these events. We also have lighting that will shine there at night. We have parking lot lighting on the buildings. You can see we have lighting in the plaza part of it. And we could literally cut this off. A lot of things that we did was to also keep things as level as possible. I know it sounds like a very minor
No, not
detail,
at all.
but if you go look at our streets, we have 25 feet deep on here, and Doug's familiar with it. We're below the line of the city curbs, which is a little bit of an issue. So we have 10 foot of concrete, 11 foot of brick, and then we have 3 foot of a green area to help soak some of the water. We also have drains. We put underground drains all the way through here and all the way through here. Same thing we did here. We didn't drop this probably as low as we typically would. We dropped it, a couple inches of slope going down to the drains. So I hope we don't have too many big floods. But on the other hand, it allows you to put tables out there. It allows people to stand there and be safe. So I think it'll be very conducive. And it's interesting too, because even the backside of the corner here, which is the north side, has windows into the restaurant. So this area could all be exposed too. So we could really probably have, 8 or 10 or 12,000 square feet, maybe even larger, that we can do the events. And I really think there's a need for the events, and I don't mean major events. You could be doing a small Saturday morning, you know, from a school. You could have, you know, the 5th grade could do an art exhibit there. And just so that there's things moving there all the time, a quilt show, or whatever you want to do. And I foresee it to be a little more family oriented, and staying with the art, you know, type of theme that we have. It doesn't mean you couldn't have an Oktoberfest if you wanted to, but I see our being more of family, bringing, you know, kids into dance stuff and things such as that. But it's built for it. It's also the other thing that I strive is the security. This is a very touchy area to talk about, but security is critical today. And you know, as our world is evolving, you know, we have to make sure that we protect ourselves, all of us, in our endeavors, whatever we do. But the entire property has security on it, on every corner of the building, on the street, on the light poles, so that if something's going on there, we can. And we're gonna make that known, because we don't want to deter people from coming and participating, but we also don't want to have an issue where you have an undesirable situation. So having security, people know it, will make people use their judgment a little bit wiser. So I think it'll work out great for them.
Well, that's very exciting. Is there any sort of stage?
No, we haven't anything set up like that.
Okay.
But the way this is set up, this whole patio area here, it's all cut like tile. It's concrete that we stained.
Yeah.
So this is all cut up. It looks just like 24-inch tiles for this whole area. And then this 85-foot wall is all lit with LED lights. And there's a 4.5-foot garden area out here. What we're going to do is we're going to have plants that probably come up 3 or 4 feet high. So if you're driving in this entrance here, that unless it's a truck, you probably sit down lower. You'll be sitting down in the cafe area, no different than if you've gone to some nice tourist areas. And you'll be able to sit at your cafe table, have the music, and kind of privatize it a little bit. And then, of course, we're going to have a wrought iron fence over here with the church and then their lawn. So really, you're going to go, unless there's a particular vehicle there at that time going 2 miles an hour, it'll almost feel like a green area to a green area, which will be quite nice. And then we're also going to have, there's a city street lamp which we're going to be replacing that was knocked down before we took over the project. They'll be going back in, we talked to them, and then we're planting 4 trees across here. So we'll have a really warm, you know, destination type. It's not going to be loud in the sense of, I mean, if you look at the lights, they're soft, and it'll fit into the landscape pretty well, I think.
Yes, kudos on the design.
Thank you so much. We're actually just a minute or two away from our witching hour. So I'm wondering if you could stay a few minutes, and if people have questions still for Dan, you can approach him individually. And thank you again. Really appreciate it.